Hello, Coachella Valley, and welcome to Live with Your Chamber. I'm your host, Katie Stice, CEO at the amazing Rancho Mirage Chamber of Commerce. And we do this weekly series to really introduce you to some incredible local small businesses, talk a little bit about who they are and what they do. And we just want to give a shout out to all of you. Thank you so much for choosing to shop local, stay local, meet our local business providers. It really does make a difference in our local economy. So we're just so appreciative of all of that. And at this time, we'll go ahead and bring out our guest today. Oh my goodness, huge warm welcome for Dr. Fazuni from La Femme Health and Beauty. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Katie.
Oh my gosh, we're thrilled to have you. I've had the pleasure of getting to know you through different networking groups, through the chamber and the community. So, this is such a perfect opportunity for you to get to know all of the viewers out there.
For
So,
sure.
tell us a little bit about La Femme Health and Beauty and even how you got into this industry.
Well, I've been in the desert since November of 2007. And when I got into OBGYN, which has its own long-winded story, the older OBGYNs used to tell me, you'll grow old with your patients, your practice will change, you'll see how it goes because obstetrics is really labor intensive and it
Mm,
really does chew you out.
mhm,
So a lot of OBGYNs by practice, by design, by how it just works out, we begin our lives as obstetricians and we
mhm,
slowly transition into OBGYN,
mhm.
then more GYN and OB and other things. And La Femme Health and Beauty kind of came about the same way. I began doing, I fell in love with OB when I was a resident.
Mhm.
Um, my mom was a driving faster and getting interested because of what she'd gone through. But I remember doing my medical school rotations. And when you do the first 2 years of medical school, it's didactics. The last 2 years, it's clinical. My first
Yeah.
rotation was surgery. And I was like, oh, yeah, 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 yeah. All guys are like, surgery, surgery. Um,
Yeah.
and I remember just getting up every morning at like 5:30. I'm like, oh, it's such a drag. Another wound, another
Uh-huh.
appy. It just, it was cool while you were in the operating room, but you just wanted to be in the operating room. Um,
Right.
and that's not really where all the glory is at. You'll see patients outside. You got to take care of them outside. It's not just about the rupture appendix or gallbladder. Um,
Right.
but I remember when I was doing my OB rotation, it was the one that I would wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, I gotta go. And
Oh, love
and
that.
I remember one morning I was freezing my buns in Brooklyn winter, and I was like, why am I excited about going to work uh, in middle
Yeah.
of storm that I can't even get on a bus on? And
Oh,
that's when it
geez.
hit me that I was like, you know what? Maybe I like OB more than I think I should.
Yes.
And so I got stuck with OB. But since I moved to the desert, very busy OB practice. I used to do, I averaged, 700 deliveries a year. And
Amazing.
that's, oh
That's
my
a
God,
lot of deliveries.
that is a lot. Most of my colleagues that are OBGYNs, they don't believe me. I'm like, seriously, like I got the names. Um, but as I've gotten older and his gray beard and lack of hair shows it, um, I've grown older with my patients, and the La Femme
Oh,
Health and Beauty kind of came about because of that. Because, sure, I still have plenty of OB patients that come in. My office practice has changed a little bit, so I don't do
mhm,
so many OB just because
mhm,
of
mhm.
insurance reimbursements and stuff. So I've grown older. I've become more of a gynecologist, but
Sure.
also what women in their after their childbearing years, whether it's their early 30s, late 30s, early 40s, go through.
Sure.
They become, they want to get back their youth. They want
Sure.
to work on their bodies. They want
Mhm.
to, save things as they are before things set in. So I've
Sure.
begun doing a lot more aesthetics over the past 5 years. 6 years. As a matter of fact, I
Yeah.
got into it because I got tired of patients telling me, "Hey, doc, while you're in there, do you
Yeah.
mind removing this? Do you
Right.
mind removing that? Um, what can we do about these stretch marks? Not that you gave me a scar. What are you gonna do about
That's
it?"
right. That's
Uh,
right. Yep.
so I began offering laser therapies and body sculpting, and now I do just about everything under the sun, aesthetically speaking. So,
You really
um,
do,
having
and I feel like it's such a great specialty to have right here in the valley. So it's yeah, it's so appreciated, and I feel like that's also become a big part of what you're known for now. So yeah,
Thank you.
it's a
Yeah,
good fit. Mhm. And tell us a little bit about like I was on your website a little bit earlier as we were discussing before we went live, and I was just reading more about you. And I'm lucky to know also your wife, who's a business owner out here in the valley, and got to see your kids on Facebook. You know, being born and growing up, and so I didn't know this about you though, but I was wondering if you would just share the story about. Um, what really inspired you for this industry in particular?
my mom. I, you know, my mom has been instrumental in my life. Typical patriarchal family. Dads are always outside working. They come in, they're the bosses. I'm a firstborn son in a traditional conservative Persian family, and boys are always at. So I was very close to my mother, and
Mhm,
because of family dynamics and whatnot, my mom and I were very close. We're still close, but
mhm,
she was instrumental in forming the clay pot that I was as a kid. And
mm,
she wouldn't, well, I would ask her about birth experiences, any curious kid. And she would tell me about how I was pulled out of her and how
mm.
she doesn't remember the first 2 days of my birth
Oh,
because of the trauma involved. And
wow.
then my brother was way bigger than me in size. So he came with his own complications. And
Mhm,
I was just old enough, and that's just 4.5, where I remember parts of her pregnancy with my sister, and
mm,
that was also another traumatic delivery. And
mm.
um, so I then we immigrated to the U.S., and I saw what my mom was going through as a result of the issues that arose from her giving birth to us normally,
Sure.
and those gynecological issues that she was going through. My mom went from being a housewife to helping my dad run a restaurant and working 12 to 16-hour days, and
Oh,
um, having GYN issues. And I don't mean to be very specific, but
sure.
when you see your mom suffering through that and
Yeah,
you're so close to her, you just wish you could do something. It was very much a
absolutely.
motivating force for me to go into medicine. And
Yeah,
I fiddled around with OBGYN in my head a little bit, but I really didn't plan on going to become an OBGYN when I went to medical school. My plan was to do surgery.
yeah.
But OBGYN won out, it's
That's right. And here you are at having delivered almost 10,000 babies, which is just amazing. You know, what does that feel like for you to know that you've taken part in so many different families?
the funny thing about that is that's actually an incomplete number. That's the number I put up there was for
Yeah.
when I began keeping records a few
Oh,
months into being here, and what I could track down through my electronic health record. I don't have
wow.
access to the first few years. So what
Wow.
I have is literally from 2008 or 9 to 2022. And I didn't realize I was that busy until I added those numbers for
Yeah.
something I was doing on. So I was like, oh my lord, wait, what? You know?
That's a
And
that's a lot of
yeah,
babies.
that was a
Uh,
lot of babies. And I was like, well, that does explain the baldness. That
yeah.
does explain the high blood pressure, lack of sleep. And yeah,
Oh,
so
well,
I'm now at a textbook example why people need to get the rest and
that's
sleep.
right. Well, bless you for doing that work. That's really amazing. And tell us a little bit about the GYN practice and what folks might come to you for, or some of your specialties in that area as well.
Well, gynecology is a very broad field, and it's not just pregnancy. It really covers everything from prepubescent, if you will, up
Sure.
until
Hmm.
menopause and way into that. And
Sure.
it affects women in so many different ways, different than what traditional medicine kind of kept an eye out for. If you go back into most of the medical studies, essentially it was just young white men.
Yeah.
Women weren't in there, so all of these antibiotics, older medications, they were all just
Mm,
tested on college boys.
sure.
So we don't know how they affected women. We don't know how they affected growth of women, how it affected pregnancies. That's why that area is still lacking a
Yep.
lot. But um,
Fascinating.
you know, as women get older, they end up having the natural wear and tear that comes with
Hmm.
aging.
Hmm.
Whether it's wrinkles on our face and white hairs,
Hmm.
to when it comes to feminine parts, your estrogen levels and your hormones begin to fluctuate a little bit as the ovaries get older.
Sure.
Uterus begins to show its age, developing fibroids, abnormal bleeding, stuff like that. So, as I said, with some of my patients that were in their mid to late 30s, now they're in their late 40s, early 50s, mid 50s, and I'm dealing with menopausal issues, hot flashes, sex drive issues, a lot of those things. And it's been very interesting to transition from one or the other.
Mm-hmm.
Recently, I had the pleasure of, believe it or not, feeling really old, doing a surgery on a 16-year-old patient I had delivered 16 years ago.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, I was like,
Wow.
and
Oh,
I delivered her mom, and who was my employee at the time, and she contacted me early in the year. She's like, "Doc, I think there's something wrong with her. You need to see her." And I was like, "Sure, bring her." Wait, the one I delivered? You know,
oh wow. That, yeah, I'm sure your mind was just blown at that point, but therein lies kind of part of your, vision and dream when you first started, and growing old with your patients and older with them and going through life with them really is what you're doing. But I love that too, because it also just shares how great of an experience people have had with you, and the trust that is there with their relationship with you, and all of your experience and what you bring to the table. So that's a really powerful share.
I really appreciate it, and you're totally right. One of the biggest and most rewarding experiences has been to deal with patients that have trusted me with their care since like
Yes.
2007 when I moved here. They're still coming to
Yeah.
me. I have
Yeah.
um, there's one family that I saw in 2007, and I began with the two sisters being pregnant, um, moving on to the other four sisters getting pregnant,
Oh my
and
goodness.
then the mother getting pregnant.
Oh my
And
goodness.
so over the years, I've delivered 35 kids to them. And
Wow.
one family, and it's
They're
just
gonna
been
have
like,
to have you at the family reunion one day,
I was
just
like,
like one
yep,
time.
I'm the missing uncle here. I
No.
that has been ultimate stamp
Oh,
of approval, and
yeah.
they
Yep.
keep coming back for more and referring cousins and sisters and stuff. So it's been a blessing. It definitely has been a blessing.
That is really cool. Now you talked about, starting the practice here in 2007. So you're gonna be coming up soon on, your an anniversary date. But let's just talk a little bit about just the industry and how things have changed in your office over time, and share a little bit about that. I'm sure the practice is so much different now than it was then when you started. And does that have to do with more of that, more aesthetic work being done? Um,
I would say so. A couple things have happened. So,
Sure.
um, when I first came in, I was just very happy and, yeah, let's do this. And I didn't particularly care who had what.
Mhm.
Reimbursements weren't ever really my issue. I figured the guys up that decide these things, they kind of know what they're doing.
Mhm.
But insurance industry has really changed a lot,
Yeah.
and um, that has really forced a lot of physicians to do what we didn't go to medical school for or have training for.
Mm.
Uh,
Mhm.
for example, like a lot of the aesthetics I do are post medical school, post residency trainings. Nobody goes to medical school to get trained for Botox.
Mm. Mhm. Yeah.
Not done,
Yeah.
it's done. Botox isn't part of, hey, let's remove your gallbladder. It's not that. Um,
Sure.
so as insurance reimbursement rates have cut down significantly, it has forced physicians to find other sources of revenue. And
Sure.
for my office, it's meant, unfortunately, having to cut Medi-Cal. Um,
Mhm. Mhm.
to be over 80% of my patients. I didn't care. As an immigrant into the country, my family had benefited from it. My brother had neck surgery twice because he broke his
Yeah.
neck under Medi-Cal. My dad had a mitral valve
Gosh.
replacement. So I owe to the community, to the state, to provide that, to give my dues. And
Sure.
taking care of people that couldn't afford to pay was definitely part of that. But it got to such an extent that I was like, I'm losing money. Like
Yeah.
by the I hired the staff, I actually have to work more, to
Hmm.
see more, to get paid less. And
Hmm.
this is something, you know, I understand patients paying premium and they're like, where's my money going? Exactly. Where's it going? It's not
Yeah.
going to the
Yeah.
doctors. Um,
The
and
insurance industry has really been through a roller coaster, and it's especially lately. Yeah.
yeah, unfortunately, I think it's a racket.
Yeah.
They put profits before everybody else. I
Yeah.
can't tell you the number of times we've had to argue with somebody who doesn't even has a high school degree about why do we need authorization to do something the doctor says we need to do. Well, it's not in my book.
Right.
Really?
Right. Wow.
So,
Yeah.
so that has been a huge thing. One thing a lot of people don't realize, for example, in OBGYN, and this is where women should be really up in arms about this, the reimbursement rates for obstetrical care has literally gone down 90% since
Mm.
the 90s.
Wow.
And it's continuing to go down. Sure, the overall rate may go up a little bit, but
Hmm.
for the same thing, given the rises in malpractice premiums and everything else, has actually gone down. So I feel like the way legislatures and
Hmm.
insurance industry they want MDs to only be in hospital taking care of acute situations, while trusting nurse practitioners and physician assistants to do what doctors do. And this
Mm.
is a major problem for me personally, because
Yeah.
I took an oath to take care
You
of
have.
patients, to the Hippocratic Oath, never had anything about financial reimbursement.
Mm.
There's
Right.
never in it's you're
Right.
supposed to listen for patients. And when I see that our legislature is allowing people to practice medicine that, in my opinion, are unqualified, and I'll explain. When you go to medical school, you have 2 years of didactics and 2 years of clinicals, and you
Hmm.
get out with a medical degree.
Hmm.
Just like you go to law school and you come up with a JD. Whereas,
Sure.
unlike any other field where lawyers begin to practice, they just go out there, voila. Doctors can't. We have to go through residency, either from 3 years of your internal medicine to 6 years of your surgery. Well,
Wow.
those clinical training you had in your last 2 years, it doesn't really qualify you to practice medicine, because we know we haven't
Fair.
done residency. But
Absolutely.
physician assistant and nurse practitioners are allowed to do that. So they go to school for a year and a half. They may have a year and a half of clinical training, and then they're let out there to practice. So when patients go to offices around here, especially out here in the desert where we really have a much lower number of physicians that we actually need by 60-70%, they see nurse
Yep.
practitioners who don't know what they're doing, or it's way over the head. And I can tell you from personal experience, I can count on at least 3 patients I know that died within 3 months of coming to me, because for years they had been misdiagnosed
Oh
on
my goodness. Yeah.
basics. Like, how can you classify abnormal bleeding on a 70-year-old, where by
Oh
definition,
wow.
postmenopausal bleeding, 25% chance of endometrial cancer, and then you treat her with hormones for 2 years before you send her to a physician? Are you kidding me?
Oh
So,
wow.
and I saw that a lot out here. I
Yeah, that's so
is why
scary.
but this is what our legislature has decided. You know what? 2 years of clinical practice student is good enough.
So
And
share with me a little bit about who's in your office then, because
me,
you are the MD in your
and
office
that's it.
that
I'm the only
okay.
provider. I have a small but very lovely, great team. They've
Hmm.
been with me for years. My office manager, biller, coordinator,
Yeah.
my right hand is Esmeralda. She's been with me since 2008.
Oh,
Um,
wow. Almost
yeah,
from the
we
very
go.
beginning then.
Yes,
Yes.
exactly. Within, I think, 2008 or 2009. I think
Okay.
2009.
Okay.
15 months or so. And my other is Mary Ellen, who's my front desk person, and
Okay.
she goes in with me at patients, helps me with my procedures and stuff. She's been with me for, I think, 4 to 5 years.
Oh,
So
excellent.
yeah, so
Well,
it's I have a wonderful team, but yeah, I'm the only provider.
yeah.
I, you know,
And
again,
you have a lot of experience, which I do think is so important for, for everyone who's out there listening and watching to realize. And boy, we have a lot of comments as well. There's a lot of folks out there who
yeah.
just love you and think the world of you. And for anyone who's out there watching also, the website is right on the screen. It's lafemmehealth.com, where you can go and just find out more about Dr. Fazuni and the practice and everything that they offer. There's services. There's all kinds of information on there, testimonials. And I guess one of the things that I'd like to just kind of close up with you is I really appreciate the dialogue with you, because what I've learned through this, short interview that we get to have is how big of an advocate you are for women and for women's health, and how that's so important here, not just in our valley, it's important everywhere, but we feel so lucky and blessed that you're here in our valley advocating for our sisters and our moms and our aunts and neighbors and such. So thank you for doing your work. And I'm so glad that, I'm sorry that your mom had a difficult experience, but I'm glad you were able to learn from that and bring wonderful experiences to women through birth and other things too.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been wonderful. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk, and I love running into you outside the,
Yeah.
internet as well. So I look forward to seeing you on the outside as well. So yeah,
Oh,
oh, that number is 832. Sorry.
oh no. So if you're out there watching, I put up the phone number, but I have one missed number. So I'll go add that in the comments where it's posted elsewhere. Dr. Fazuni, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing. And I'm so glad that you're here in the Valley with this incredible practice at La Femme Health and Beauty.
Thank you so much for having me, Katie. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
You got it. We'll see you soon, my friend. Take
Have a
care.
great day. Bye bye.
You too. And thank you for joining us again on Live with Your Chamber. It's such a pleasure to bring these incredible local business owners and these experts in their fields right to you through StreamYard, through social media, just to share a little bit more about our incredible valley. Thanks so much for allowing me the opportunity. If there's any way that I can support you, your business, your nonprofit, please don't hesitate to reach out. That's what your Chamber of Commerce is here for. We'll see you soon.